this is my 2022 FX 350, and I had a little bit of heartburn, I guess, maybe, about buying this bike, because I came from a 2016 FC 350, which still had the spring fork, even though it was an RCS and it didn't work real great. I was really concerned about having the airflow. Concerned about the 6-speed gearbox, how it would do on a motocross track, because I do like to race motocross every once in a while. And this being kind of more of an off-road bike, so I was not worried about that. 18-inch rear wheel, didn't know how that was going to handle. Off-road obviously does really good, but on the motocross track, I was a little bit worried about that. And then also this larger gas tank, how it was going to feel while I was riding it, because it does have quite a bit of bulk on the left side, just above the shifter, and I was worried that my leg was always going to be hitting the bottom of the tank when I was going to be riding and shifting the bike. So my overall impressions of the bike right now is I like it. It runs good. I've always liked these 350 dirt bikes, and I did race it on the track over Labor Day weekend, and it did all right. I didn't really notice huge gaps in the transmission where I would have wanted something like the FC that has a little bit closer gear ratios. But like every bike, you got to make it your own. And one thing about these FX bikes is they come with this airbox cover, and it's not vented right here like the FCs and the TCs are. And so I went and bought a airbox cover, but I didn't know which color to buy. You have a choice of black, 2020 white, and white. And I thought, well, maybe it's going to be the 2020 white, because that's kind of when they changed the bikes up a little bit. It's not. So don't make the same mistake as I did. It's just a plain old regular white. It doesn't look terrible, but after you pull it out of the packaging, it's kind of hard to take back to the dealer and say, I bought the wrong color. So every one of my bikes I've ever had, I've always wanted a good skid plate on there. And looking at these bikes, their skid plates are kind of expensive. You're looking at anywhere from $180 to 200 some odd dollars just for a skid plate. And so when I looked at this Acerbis one, I've always liked Acerbis stuff. I thought, well, that's going to be an okay skid plate. It's got the protector for the bottom of the rear shock for that linkage guard right there. And then it comes up farther, and it really was going to give the bike a lot of good protection. And what I have found trying to put it on the bike is these holes don't quite line up. There's 3 mounting holes right here. These 2 line up, but then if you try to put the bolt in this back hole, it doesn't quite fit. The hole and everything need to be shifted that way some more. So you try to loosen these up and get them all started, and then tighten them up, and it just doesn't fit good. And then on the inside of this, it rubs the bike right here, and right here. So you have to kind of shove it up on there, and I thought, well, maybe I can, because I like the skid plate. I thought maybe I could take the heat gun and kind of warm this plastic up and kind of form it to the way I'd like it to be. But I just don't know. Should you have to take a brand new part from somebody and really you'd have to wallow out holes and make it fit your bike? I almost feel like these should just work. And then the last thing that I don't like about the skid plate is, I know why they did it, but all this recess right here, it's really close to the bottom of the case on the bike. And if you were to take a hard blow right here, it might flex enough that when it would hit your bike, it could put a hole in the bottom case of your bike. And I don't know, I just like the cases that stick down a little bit more. I know they collect dirt and mud and debris, but you can take them off and wash them out, or you can put that little bit of foam in there to take up that space and keep it from absorbing all that foam and stuff. So my last piece of advice on this bike is get one of these Works Connection no air loss fork adapter. On these bikes, it's really hard to get in here and screw on your air pump to that Schrader valve. And this Works Connection deal, you don't really need the no air loss part about it, but it just makes it super simple to get on that Schrader valve and then pump up your air fork and check your air pressures, because that's something you should do every day when you ride your bike. And you can see that even just trying to get this cap off this down here, that I'm kind of struggling a little bit. But yeah, this goes right on there. Super simple. And then you got all this room to screw on your air pump on the top. And I just recommend getting that, because it just made that super simple and nice to check air pressures. So overall impressions of the bike, I do like the fork. It does handle well. I don't like checking air pressures. That's a little bit of a pain. When I go riding, I would just like to get on my bike, head out and ride. Still trying to figure out the rear shock on this bike. Coming off of an MX bike, I've gotten used to the real kind of stiffer suspension, and I really like that. I'm sure on single track and in the off-road stuff, I'm gonna like this suspension up a little bit more. So I've gone quite a bit stiffer on the fork and on the shock. One thing to note is when I was trying to set up the front fork on this bike, it felt, I went to the book and I set it up exactly how they said. And they recommend 146 PSI in the front fork. And it just felt, on small chop and bumps, it just felt harsh. The front wheel was all over the place, didn't know what to do. So I dropped it down even more. I went to 135 on the pressure. Well, then the bike was really diving in the corners, wasn't holding up good, and it wasn't turning very good. Just really struggling to get the bike feeling good. So I called my brother. He's got quite a bit of experience with these air forks and these bikes. He recommended I go to 160, which to me didn't make any sense, but I did it anyways. So I went to 160 and it changed the bike completely. Holding up in the corners, it would turn, that harshness went away. So it must have just, holding it up a little bit higher in the stroke, must have just got it in a different spot so that it felt more plush. It would absorb the small chop and the bumps a little bit better. On the compression on the front fork, I'm 2 clicks in from the standard, which I think is like 11 or 12 clicks out, and then on the rebound, I'm at the stock standard rebound that the book says. High speed on this rear shock, I'm two turns out, and on the slow speed, I guess, yeah, I'm like 11 clicks. And then on the rebound on this, I did notice that the rebound on this shock it makes a huge difference on how this bike handles. When you're going through the whoops, it just makes, or when you're coming down on a hard hit, it really wants to rebound and deflect and throw the bike all over the place. I think I'm 11 clicks out on the rebound too. So overall, really happy with this bike. Glad I have it. Glad that I was able to get one. All this COVID and all this stuff has just made everything in short supply and in high demand. I used to be able to go into the dealership and kind of have my pick of what bike, and you could almost buy a year-old new bike sometimes if you found the right one, and you could get some pretty good deals. And this COVID has made that difficult. things that I might do in the future, after my aftermarket silencer, so I can get the spark arrestor on there. I don't know if I'll do the whole header or not. I really like the FMF stuff. That's what I had on my last bike, and it worked really good. I might do spring fork conversion. I haven't decided yet. I need to ride the bike some more and really decide what I want to do there. And then thinking about doing a different skid plate. Got to thinking about it today. If there's a better skid plate that fits better, doesn't rub my bike in the wrong spots, and it gives me the protection that I'm looking for, spend another $60–70 for a skid plate. It might be well worth it. Consider hitting a rock and putting a hole in the bottom of your case of your bike, and then you're not only out when you're out riding, but you're out the parts and the labor, whether it's your time or you paying somebody else to do it, to repair your bike. So I really wish that they would just put good skid plates on these from the factory. On my last bike, I took it out riding once, and I hit a rock, and I bent or I put a dent in the frame on it. Kind of really ruined that experience for me. It's I had a brand new bike, and riding it once and already had a dent in the frame on there. But like I said, I really do like the bike, and hope that this helps some of you guys in your decisions. I wouldn't worry about the 6-speed gearbox if you're wanting to ride motocross. I think it works okay. And if you have any other questions, leave a comment. Thanks.